My name is Fergal FINNEGAN. I'm from the Department of Adult and Community Education. That's Maynooth University in County Kildare, close to Dublin City. And I trust and hope you're having a very stimulating day. And I'm delighted I've been invited to offer some brief remarks about Irish adult education research and maybe what's interesting about it, and to situate it very, very briefly in the international research landscape. Okay, so the first thing, if you look at Irish adult education research, the first thing you'll probably notice is it's actually a very small field. There's one major journal, the Adult Learner. There's a handful of institutions. There's a relatively small number of researchers. Nonetheless, it's a vibrant field with deep historical roots, and I think the vibrancy, in part, is linked to sort of the roots of adult education itself. There's quite a strong capacity in a lot of the research, not all of it, but it's definitely a characteristic of a good deal of it, to think anew, to reimagine education, capacity to look at institutions of practice, say what could be done differently, and I think most importantly to look and say, well, how can we change things to facilitate personal and social transformations which allow for reflexive agency, which allow for human flourishing. And I think those big questions are really important to developing a lifelong learning society that's adequate for our needs at the moment. Along with that sort of capacity to think anew, there's also a capacity to think across, and that's that a lot of adult education research in Ireland is not simply rooted to further education or community education or higher education. It thinks across those settings to ask important questions, and I think that's significant. The other characteristic that I would note, and this is a very strong characteristic of our doctoral programs in our department, but goes further than that, is a really strong interest in changing how research is done. So a commitment to doing research in a participatory and open way, doing research with rather than on people, and I think that gives a small field a real sense of energy and vibrancy, and I'd encourage people to have a look at some of what's been done through publications out of Ireland and so forth. Now, all of that is not done in a vacuum. I think adult education is a small field internationally, and I think it really relies on international collaboration. And certainly in our department, we work a little bit with the American Association for Adult and Continuing Education, and I edit one of their journals, I co-edit the Journal of Transformative Education. We also work very closely with European Society for Research on the Education of Adults, and I think that's a very important body. Internationally, we encourage people to have a look at their online journal, which is open access, and their online books, and that will give you some sense of the things I'm talking about on an international level. So that's as much as I have to say my short couple of minutes. I hope you have engaging dialogue and useful discussions. Thanks very much.